Archbishop of York is speaking out against the war in Ukraine. He's calling it an act of great evil.
As Christians prepare to celebrate Easter, Stephen Cottrell says the message of new life and hope has never been more timely, and he joins us live in the studio. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
You've, with the Archbishop of Canterbury, have come out very strongly, haven't you? And you've released a joint statement where you pray for an urgent ceasefire and a withdrawal of Russian forces. But at the same time, the Archbishop of Canterbury has spoken to the head of the Orthodox Church in Russia, who I don't know, but I'm assuming has quite a lot of power in that country. You know, we hear what you say, we hear what the voice is strong in a place where we understand.
He certainly has great influence.
And the problem is, of course, from what I'm reading, is that Patriarch Kirill of Moscow and all Russia, who is the leader of the church in Russia, has done the opposite of what the Archbishop of Canterbury had wanted and what he'd said. He has said he wants Russian soldiers to defend the country as only Russians can, that they don't strive for war or do harm to others, but we've been raised throughout history to love our fatherland and we'll be ready to protect it. How damaging is that kind of support to what you call Russia's great act of evil?
From a man of God.
Well, it's a completely perverse understanding, firstly, of the Christian faith, but also what's happening before us in Russia and Ukraine. And this is not the self-defence of Russia, it is the invasion and oppression of the people of Ukraine. And therefore, there can be no justification of it. And as well as, you know, joining with the Pope in calling for a ceasefire and for peace, yet again, we have made and continue to make an appeal to the Russian Orthodox Church to condemn this war, which, by the way, other Orthodox churches are condemning, as are many thousands of individual Christian people in Russia.
But somebody as powerful a voice for the Russian public as the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church, are you saying that this man cannot really be a man of God in the same way that the Archbishop of Canterbury is, because of his view that this is not a great act of evil, this is a great act of defence that is right in the tradition of Russian soldiers and protecting their fatherland?
I certainly think that it's impossible to fully understand what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, though let me be clear, understanding it is not in any way condoning it, but understanding it without understanding its religious dimension and the significance of Kyiv for Russian Orthodoxy. But let's be absolutely clear, the way of Christ is the way of peace. And any Christian leader who is condoning oppression, violence, invasion, the terrible atrocities we've seen, is not speaking in the name of Christ.
Do you think that the Pope has gone far enough? I mean, anyone can call for a ceasefire, but what we are seeing happening in Ukraine, as I was saying earlier, is very much on a par with the kind of Nazi atrocities that took place 70, 80 years ago in Europe, across Europe. Shouldn't the Pope be explicitly condemning the Russians rather than just calling even-handedly for a ceasefire? Shouldn't he be condemning this, as you describe it, this great act of evil?
Well, I'm not going to criticise anybody else for, exactly how they've said it or what they've said. I just want to be clear about what I'm saying and what we're saying here in the Church of England. And indeed, I think Christian churches together in this country.
But we can't be even-handed about this.
No, this war is wrong.
Yes.
Atrocities are being committed. The Pope is right. The next step needs to be a ceasefire. I also think we need to keep open all the diplomatic channels we have, including with the Russian Orthodox Church, to use everything we can do to persuade those who are either actually doing these terrible things or condoning them in any way to get them to step back.
Can we just drill down a little bit into this statement that you and the Archbishop made about evil?
Yeah.
And it is, of course, evil in every sense of the word and the definition of that word. What's your take on this? Do you think this is something, evil is something which is confined to the human breast? Or do you think that there is, as the Archbishop said very interestingly in a podcast last week, that actually there is a force of evil which is exterior to us, outside us, which is malign and which can infect us?
Yes. Well, Jesus says something rather uncomfortable, which is all the really terrible things in the world do come from within us.
Right.
And therefore, you can't let yourself off the hook by saying, I've been possessed by something, but, and there is a but in this sentence, but those of us who have seen terrible evil or witnessed terrible evil can't also help but wonder whether there is other malign forces which, aligned with those, we all know, we human beings, that we're capable
our savage tendencies
of doing and saying terrible things, which is why, I mean, I'm speaking to you in Holy Week.
Yes.
You know, the message of Easter, which is where the Christian faith begins and ends, is that death doesn't have the last word, violence doesn't have the last word, oppression doesn't have the last word, that even in the midst of the most terrible suffering, we find a narrative of hope. And it's that I want to concentrate on. You know, all I know is there's evil. It's real, and we need to counter it, and the only way to counter it is the way of peace and reconciliation and love, the things we see in Jesus Christ.
But what about retribution and punishment? As a man of God, presumably you would want to see these perpetrators?
Of course, reconciliation means justice.
Yes.
There can be no peace without justice. Yes. But it is peace we want, and I think the other thing probably many of us, particularly of my generation, have learned in the last couple of months, if we're honest, I think we've taken peace for granted in this country and in the West. We haven't done enough to make peace, which is, you know, Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, not blessed are the peace lovers. It's quite easy to love peace, but making it requires political will, political action, support of international bodies, things that we have neglected in recent years.
And can I ask, of course, in positions of great authority like yourself and the Archbishop of Canterbury, language is very important, and so to come out with a statement which you call things a great act of evil, you know, it takes thought to do that, and you make a decision to do that. But can I just ask, when the Archbishop of Canterbury, for example, is speaking to the head of the Orthodox Church, and you've said that, you know, that Patriarch Kirill must have a gross miscalculation of the Christian faith in order to come out in favour of Vladimir Putin's actions. Would the Archbishop of Canterbury be in a position to challenge him on his faith, a man of great standing in his own country? I'm wondering, you know, is it sort of very diplomatic and very careful language, or is there a vigorous challenge between men of God at the highest positions in different countries?
Yes, there is. I mean, you know, I have not spoken to Patriarch Kirill myself, but the Archbishop of Canterbury has, and I know that he will have said this cannot be the way of Christ. It cannot be the way of Christ to be doing the things we see each day. I mean, there is nothing to discuss.
But it shows the limit of religion. For those who aren't religious, that dichotomy of having two men who are at the height of their religious power in terms of authority in the human world, you know, talking to the congregation, talking to people, trying to broker peace, that two men right at the top can have completely diametrically opposed views of right and wrong and good and evil over something that's happening in Ukraine.
Hang on, let's be clear. It is Putin who has invaded Ukraine, not the Russian Orthodox Church.
No, but in terms of an opinion and disseminating that opinion amongst your people.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but again, I would want to come back to, at the heart of the Christian faith is the person of Jesus Christ. Yeah. He's the one who follow. His followers are frail human beings with a great capacity to get things wrong. But the message, which is one of hope and peace and justice, has never been more relevant.
And that is your Easter message. We know that. Can I ask you a question?
But also think about ordinary Christians. You know, the thing that I think we also need to look at is ordinary people in Russia need our support. They don't like what's going on. Many of them
I'm not so sure about that.
Well, but many of them are bravely opposing it. Very bravely opposing it.
Can I ask you a personal question? Obviously, Christianity fundamentally is about forgiveness. And when you say your prayers at night, at the moment, obviously you're praying for Ukraine. Are you praying for the Russian soldiers committing these acts? And do you say a prayer for President Putin?
I certainly pray for President Putin that he will change his mind and his heart will be changed. I certainly pray for that. And yes, I pray for everyone involved in this conflict. But that does not mean I do not want this conflict to end. I do not want Russia to withdraw. But yeah, I cry out for Russian mothers whose sons are being needlessly killed, as well as for the terrible sufferings of the people of Mariupol
and still on the personal, is it true that you might be taking in a refugee?
Well, we've registered. Yeah,
amongst, as well as 20,000 other people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got space. You know, I live at a place called Bishopthorpe Palace. There's a clue in the title. There's a clue in the title.
There's space. How many refugees could you take in?
Well, actually, it's actually. I mean, although I live in a flat at the top of the house. It's a place of work for many people, so it's mainly offices now. So we don't actually have that much room, but we do have room. We do have room.
And have you found a family on Facebook or anything?
No. We've registered our availability with one of the agencies that's doing this. We're waiting to hear whether there might be a match, and there's nothing good about the war in Ukraine, but. In terrible horrors, sometimes good things come out of it. And my hope is that the British attitude to refugees, because there aren't just refugees in Ukraine at the moment, there's refugees from the Yemen and Syria.
Right.
I hope our whole attitude to refugees will change as a result of this.
Well, would you please say a prayer to lift the red tape that's surrounding?
I certainly am praying for that as well, and also for the two of you. And what you do to help us, what the media are doing at the moment is absolutely fantastic. And I hope also public service broadcasting will be cherished as a result of what we see on our screens. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Archbishop. It's very kind of you to say that.
Very lovely. Thank you very much.
Just doing the old job. Good to see you. Are you back to York now?
I'm back this morning, yes.
It's a beautiful city. I envy you.